Hey guys, I wanted to share with you a practice quiz to help you judge for yourself whether you're ready for the quiz on parent functions and transformations. First thing I want to highlight is that when we say identify the parent functions, what we mean is write the equation. I expect you to know by name all of your parent functions that we talk about in this class, which is like 9 of them. And that just means we can write the function. We can write it in y equals, like y equals x for linear, or we can write it with an f of x. For example, f of x equals the square root of x for the square root function. Luckily, most of these sound like what they look like. For example, the square root function has a square root, the absolute value has an absolute value, and logarithmic has a log. But you do need to know these by heart. We're not going to ask you for all of them, so you just got to be ready for all of them, because I'm only going to ask you for a couple of them. In the second section, we have certain keywords that I put here. On your quiz, these won't actually be there. So I'm using these here to help you, but on your actual quiz, I'm not going to tell you what the words are that I want you to use. So be ready for that. This one, the first one's an absolute value function, but it's added 3 on the outside, so that's going to be an up 3. It shifted up 3. The next one has 2 things happening. It's multiplied by -4, or multiplied by 1/4, and then we've subtracted 6 on the inside. I'm going to go order of operations here. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to move right 6. I'm also going to compress by 1/4. Number 5, we have 3 things going on. So I'm going to write all 3 for number 5. I'm going to deal with the shifts first, and then I'm going to multiply by 2. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to move left 3, down 7, and then I'm going to stretch by 2. Number 6, Jack graphed the absolute value parent function. So the absolute value parent function. And then he reflected it across the x-axis. He shifted it 2 units to the left and 1 unit up. And then it asks us to write the new function. So I'm using f of x notation. I give you the f of x here. On your quiz, you can use y or f of x, but I went ahead and typed it in myself here. So I'm going to give the new equation. The new equation has to be reflected, so I know it's going to be a minus, and it is absolute value. And it says it is shifted to the left, so I'm going to do plus 2. And then on the outside, it said 1 unit up, so I'm going to add 1 on the outside. So there's my new function after it's been shifted. Number 7, identify the vertex and then graph. My vertex, because it's in vertex form, is going to be +1 and then +2. Remember, when it's inside, we switch it. The domain of that, well, I'm going to graph it first. So I'm going to go to 1 and 2. And that's going to be right there. My slope is going to be just like that. Just like that. Okay? So my domain is all real numbers. Just going to write it like that. If you want, you can do interval notation. For my range, I'm going to do including 2 and up. Number 8. Number 8, I have a vertex at -4, 0. But then we also have it compressed. So when I go ahead and multiply that, I'm going to go ahead and put my -4, 0. -4, 0. And then I'm going to try to graph that. But I have a flipped, and it's made the slope go a little bit flatter. So I'm going to go down 1 over 2. So I'm going to try to graph this here. Down 1 over 2. So it's a little bit flatter. And that's not a great one. It should be symmetric, so I'm going to try to do that one more time. All right. And so my domain is, again, all reals. All absolute value functions have all real numbers as a domain. The range is going to be from negative infinity to 0, including 0. I got to put the negative infinity first because I put the negatives first. On the back, we have piecewise functions. First thing I do is I label my boundary here where it switches. Now, this isn't a part of my graph. This is just to help me graph it. So I'm going to go at -2, just kind of putting that line there. I'm going to evaluate these at that. So when I plug in -2 in for x, on this one, what I end up with is -4 plus 3 is -1. So I'm going to put a closed circle right there. I'm using a closed circle because that has an equal sign in it. And then that's for the area left of the line, less than that. So I'm going to pick one more point. I'm actually just going to use the slope, which the slope is +2. So I'm going to go up 2 and over 1. But the problem is if I go up 2 and over 1, I'm on the right. So I'm actually going to go backwards. I'm going to go down 2 and over 1. That way I end up with a positive slope. Now, the next one, I'm going to still plug in -2, but this time, because I don't have an equal to there, it's going to be an open circle. And when I plug in -2, I get +1 plus 6 is 7. I'm going to count up to 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I'm going to put an open circle there. And then it's going down 1 over 2. All right, so eventually I'm actually going to hit that middle section because that one's going to keep going. My domain is still going to be all real. My range, however, is going to be a maximum of 7. That was my top point there. So I'm going to start at negative infinity and go to 7. But since I don't have a closed circle there, I can't include it. You could write this in inequality notation, but I wrote it in integral notation. Next up, piecewise at -5. So this is kind of hard to see, so I'm actually going to draw my axis so you can see it. So piecewise at -5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I also have piecewise break at 2. And the thing I like about this equation is that my middle part is a constant. So I'm going to go ahead and draw a straight line. It's equal to in both of them, so I'm going to fill in my circle at 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to plug in -5 into this equation to see what happens and to see where I'm going to put my open circle. That's an absolute value. So when I plug in -5, it becomes +5 minus 7 is -2. Open circle at -2. Okay. Now it is an absolute value, but I'm not going to get my v because from this perspective, I'm only going to have a straight line, and it is a positive line. So I'm going to go up, just like that. On the flip side, I'm going to plug in +2 in there and put my open circle on the other line. So if I plug in +2, I get +4. So my open circle is going to go right on top of that one. I already have a closed circle there, so I'm putting an open circle there. I'm going to change colors, actually, for this one. So I have an open and a closed circle there. The next thing I'm going to do is I notice my slope is up 1 over 1. So I'm going to go up 1 over 1, up 1 over 1, up 1 over 1, up 1 over 1. So altogether, I have a domain of all real numbers. I have no x that I can't have. And I have a range, it looks like, from right here, -2 to +infinity.